The date was November the 19th, 1863, and there was a large gathering of Americans that were assembled at a particular spot in Pennsylvania to honor fallen soldiers. The main speaker on that occasion was Edward Everett. For 2 hours, he held the attention of that audience, kept them spellbound with his oratorical ability. Perhaps you remember some of the phrases, maybe even quote some of the paragraphs of what Edward Everett said on that occasion. In reality, probably not. And yet he had a career of 40 years as a professor, a diplomat, a statesman. Everyone was in awe whenever Edward Everett would speak. But chances are you don't even remember history talking about him being there on that occasion. He was followed by a younger gentleman who only spoke for a few minutes. At the end of that speech, there was a lot of criticism that was to be in print around the country. One paper talking about that shorter speech, that second speech, said that they hoped that his words shall no more be repeated or thought of. The Chicago Times wrote this: "The cheek of every American must tingle with shame as he reads the silly, flat, and dish-watery utterances of the man who has to be pointed out to intelligent foreigners as the President of the United States." They're talking about the Gettysburg Address from Abraham Lincoln. Initially, so much criticism, one of the worst speeches they have ever heard. But in reality, the thoughts that are condensed in that very brief message were phenomenal. They still are. Back in John chapter 7, in the Gospel of John, the Pharisees are so upset with what they're hearing about Jesus and his teaching that they send temple guards to actually arrest him. And they listen and come back empty-handed. And there in that chapter, when they finally return, the Pharisees ask, "Why didn't you bring him?" And the statement that they make is, "We've never heard anybody talk like this." And their response was, "Well, have we been deceived? We haven't been believing him." Maybe they should have. Maybe they always should have. How often do you find individuals that are disbelievers, people that are agnostics or atheists, that can quote statements from Jesus? Why is that the case? There's a power in that message that will always remain. You can read through Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7, those 3 chapters, the Sermon on the Mount. And it only takes a few moments, few minutes to read those words. Yet one of the greatest discourses the world will ever see in print is recorded in those chapters. We live in an age where people become very verbose. They use a lot more words than they need to. Sometimes beat around the bush not to answer a question when it could be a simple answer. But to give a simple answer would cloud the dishonesty in their heart, their mind, their intent, their focus, their ideology. So we have to put up with a lot of empty jargon from individuals that know better, but don't act better. There'll always be politicians and diplomats and statesmen like Edward Everett who will talk and talk and talk forever, it seems. But listen to the short statements where there are principles and facts and insights that the world needs to hear, but often closes its ears to the truth. Everybody remembers the Gettysburg Address of Abraham Lincoln. No one remembers the 2-hour discourse of Edward Everett. Be succinct in your speech, honest in what you say. Let the words of Jesus guide us in what we do. Please stay safe. We'll talk again soon.